named Kelly. Vanessa Lee Chester, the actress chosen to play Kelly, was Vanessa Lee Chester, a black actress. Arby's background. Arby, one of the original characters, was a black character. Reason for casting? By combining the characters and then casting Vanessa Lee Chester, the filmmakers were able to retain the character's background as a black character and also streamline the story. So, once again, when this movie came out, Jurassic Park 2, The Lost World, it came out in 1997. I was in seventh grade, so I was reading the book before the movie came out. So, no. Was I in seventh? Yeah, I was in seventh grade and I was reading the book, The Lost World. But I think it was still 1996 when I was reading it. So, having said that, after reading the book in middle school and then going to see the movie, I highly doubt I got the luxury to go see it in theaters because I lived a pretty unfortunate sheltered life. So I probably saw The Lost World when it came out on VHS many years later. So having said that, when I saw the Jurassic World Part 2, finally, probably on VHS, I was wondering why they chose a girl like her. Not, I was like, well, when they described her in the book, she was one way. Yes, she was African American descent, but that's where I was getting mixed up at. Now, I'm going back from my memory from when I first read Jurassic Park Part 2. And it reminded me, AI reminded me that there were two African American characters in the book that this guy had. He had two black daughters. One name was Arbery, and the other was named Kelly. And now that you mention it, I do remember seeing Arbery in there because I had an issue figuring out how to pronounce her name. So in my mind, it was hard to make the connection because they did have two daughters in the book. He did have two daughters in Lost World Part 2, the book, but when the movie came out, they combined both daughters into one role. And that's where I was confused at. I don't want to say it was necessarily why was she so dark skinned. That's not the case. But because there was not access for me to information to which I'm reading now and getting filled in from 1997, it's easier for me to wrap my head around and understand the concept. They may have explained it on Entertainment Tonight, but once again, I've lived a sheltered life, so I didn't have access to the TV so much. So I was getting both of the daughters confused in Jurassic Park 2. Nonetheless, I was able to follow that he had two daughters and they both were brown. I believe one had a different complexion than the other. And also to emphasize, they didn't really emphasize, I don't think the writer didn't really emphasize on the complexion far as the skin tone shade of the daughters, but he did emphasize that the daughters were black. But this is coming from the early 90s. So in my mind, I still was programmed and conditioned to not see a darker complexion daughter, even when I read, even though the word specifically read he had black daughters. Because in the 90s, I rarely saw us in movies, especially a brown skinned girl. Usually it was always in the bad light presented. So even while reading the book, I acknowledged the fact that Michael Crichton wrote that dad had two black girls for daughters, but it still didn't register beyond that. So when I saw Jurassic Park Part 2, the movie, and saw his daughter, I was like, what's going on? It still didn't click. So here I am catching up to old questions that I had in my mind, and now I'm even more excited to repurchase Jurassic Park Lost World Part 2 and reread it again through a new lens and through new eyes and a new mind because the world has changed since then.